Turns out he's a major cinephile.
They don't watch enough movies. It's a very simple formula.
And here we go. Hello, friends, and welcome to the Nack Goes to the Movie podcast. This is your one-stop shop podcast for all things movie, television, sprinkling a little bit of pop culture entertainment news for you as well. Started this podcast off because I do, probably since I was 6 years old, I've spent all my time with watching movies, TV shows, having a home away from home on the IMDb page and app. But let's get down to the big topic of the day, and that is my Primetime Emmys 2020 breakdown. Woo! Get excited, folks. The 72nd Primetime Emmy Awards will be airing at 8 p.m. on Sunday, September 20th on ABC. The full list of nominations came out in early August. I, like the rest of you cinephiles, combed through all of it to try and figure out some fun omissions. Not so fun, but, we'll call it fun. But, seeing what shows really took the cake and just kind of getting a full gist of the awards. But let's just dive right into it. A lot to cover. Not really a big surprise, but great to see. Watchmen's HBO TV show one season limited series having 26 nominations, which is the most this year, and justly deserved, including 6 actors nods. I, as a superhero movie nerd that I am, decided to pick this show up purely off of the 2009 Watchmen movie, and like the extended edition freak that I am, I do, of course, have the 2 15-minute runtime, the ultimate cut, with the Tales of the Black Freighter Gerard Butler voiced animation. But we'll talk loads more on how amazing Watchmen was and why it deserves all of the award recognition. A Mandalorian coming in, the Disney Plus series from Star Wars, having 15 nods, including Best Drama Series, and some love for the guest starring role of Giancarlo Esposito. I mean, this show is the whole reason I got Disney Plus. Seeing them get the nods that they do. We love Clone Wars, and I'm sure we'll talk about the animated series, that Rebels. I'm sure we'll get into all of that at some point as we get further and further down the podcast chain. But we love our animated Star Wars, don't get me wrong. There's something magical about seeing the live action, full big budget storyline, and of course having the Mandalorian angle. I mean, as a kid, I was very much into Darth Vader and Boba Fett as my top 2 characters, so I always appreciate the rogue, the puckish rogue characters, even though I guess that would describe Han Solo, but let's not delve too far into that. How about streaming services cleaning up this year? Sorry, network TV. Another year of Netflix and HBO with the most nominations by network. This year it was Netflix on top with 160 nods. Last year, HBO had 137 and was on top. Speaking of HBO shows, Last Week Tonight with 9 nods. This show is the late night show that has, in my mind, it's the most important. It's so well made, even in the quarantine production oddities that all of this type of shows have faced. It's just every week I look forward to learning things from the man, the myth, the legend, John Oliver. And as usual, they should do a nice tear through the late night and variety categories of the Primetime Emmys. The animated category this year, super tight with many shows I like, one that whatever. Rick and Morty could repeat. If you don't watch Rick and Morty, you are missing out on some quality adult animation with some very good, strong motifs that have some just... It hits home. Rick and Morty really hits home. Just like the other show that I think is miles above everything else, Big Mouth, which has some great musical numbers as the seasons have gone on. And really just, if they could teach health class with Big Mouth, they should. I mean, they can. Who knows? They should. That should be, my kids can absolutely get a permission slip to watch Big Mouth and learn the true uncensored awkwardness of growing up in puberty. What an amazing show that Nick Kroll has put out, and John Mulaney on Netflix. Probably one of the big surprises that we'll talk later in the show in depth about is the FX comedy, kind of like a mockumentary show, What We Do in the Shadows. 8 nominations this year from 0 last year. I will always love things Matt Berry's in after his amazing, probably the best show I've ever seen. We'll see. Maybe that's exaggeration in Garth Marenghi's Dark Place. But that show is so good, and everyone attached to it. That show deserves some true love. So hopefully the Emmy lords are kind to What We Do in the Shadows this year. They deserve some love. But let's kind of dive into some specifics here. So we'll start off with the animation voiceover work categories, starting with voiceover performance, outstanding character. 2 of the 6 are Simpsons. Ugh. I'm sure I will get flack for this. I don't love, we're so deep into things, and there's so many new exciting things going on with animation. A lot of this category is animation. We should let other shows get their chance to shine that are really doing really interesting creative things, and The Simpsons kind of past its prime. Let's be real. All right, Maya Rudolph is up for outstanding voice character work for her performance as a hormone monstress in Big Mouth. This is for the Do the Thing episode. Every episode of Big Mouth is good, but Maya Rudolph is a phenomenal add to a very good show, and she could absolutely, I mean, look, she should win in my mind. I will say anything The Mandalorian does with Taika Waititi. I actually looked this up. Taika Waititi. There we go. I actually looked up him saying his own name to try to get it right. He did voice IG-11. His voice is just a fun, unique voice, kind of like, I guess you'd say, like a Lin-Manuel Miranda. Just it's him, and it's just a pleasing to the ear auditory voice that he speaks all his roles in. I did not know Hank Azaria was in The Simpsons. I am not I'm sure you guys will tell I am not a fan of The Simpsons, and have not delved in particularly deep to specifics on voice actors and everything of the sort. I do quite like Hank Azaria. First discovered him from the amazing, underrated Brock Myers show, which just wrapped up on IFC. Not a baseball person, but wow, Brock Myers good. Digression from our Emmy talk, but putting it out there. It's not all doom and gloom when I talk about things related to The Simpsons. Is just not my cup of tea, especially this late in the game. All right, outstanding animated program. One of the few categories that I've actually watched it all. Well, okay, except for The Simpsons of recent, but whatever. Roast Away. I'll take it. I love it. I'll live for it. There's so much talent in this category. I always love anything by H. John Benjamin with his voiceover work. Yes, I like Archer a little more, but always got to give love to the strange family comedy of Bob's Burgers. BoJack Horseman, of course, with Will Arnett is another one of those really hits you hard sometimes with some of those, mental health issues, and tackles it in an interesting way with the Hollywood surrounding on it. If you haven't, which I can't imagine many people have not delved into BoJack Horseman yet, you should. It's the right balance of depression, awareness, jokes, and kind of everything in between. It's I'm sure someone could write a thesis on mental health overall as related and represented in BoJack Horseman. But the two that I have to talk about more than those two shows, specifically the episodes they're referenced in, with the Vat of Acid episode, which also has, I remember rewatching it, not really, I remember the Morty's trying to have a do-over respawn video game button, and I remember not what episode it pertained to, and then watching the Vat of Acid episode again, and watching just Morty's relationship and how emotionally deep it becomes and everything they go through, and the accident presses the button and ruins the whole thing. And at the end of the day, Rick and Morty normally has it's in, I want to say, Vindicators 3, the whole thing of like I forget the quote exactly, but pretty much it's the equivalent of like no one's special and everything's terrible, and that's always Rick's point. And it's such a mind mess up watching Rick and Morty in the best possible way. And of course, Disclosure, the movie, the musical, was a great episode from Big Mouth. Was it the best episode ever? No, but I gotta always say the Valentine's Day episode is probably one of the best episodes of all time. But the Disclosure, the movie, the musical episode, it reminded me of my glory days in high school freshman year as Man and Fiddler on the Roof with 6 lines. It was a big role. I know I haven't blown up on Broadway yet, but it was big time moment for Nick McGann, that's for sure. Seeing the musical and anything they did with Mr. Lizer this season of his trying to be hidden toxic masculinity, and it came out in the uniform episode, but it really came out here, and they've just done such a good job of vilifying this character in a way that is timely and relevant to almost, you want to say, like fake feminism, where like guys who try to be the politically correct people who are so fixated on that role that they don't realize that they're part of the problem and they're actually making it worse and turning a blind eye to it. Very in depth. Watch Big Mouth. Watch Rick and Morty. Also, seeing no Seth MacFarlane shows, specifically Family Guy. I know American Dad always is kind of feels like the second fiddle younger brother to Family Guy, but no Seth MacFarlane shows in this group. Always a surprise when you think that's kind of a main staple. So we're going to take a little turn here, little right turn off the beaten path, and look at a category that a lot of people probably don't think too much. It's not one of the sexy categories technically, but I was very interested in the history of this category of the outstanding main title design. Not a category I ever really looked at, but looking back at some previous winners, Game of Thrones, Dexter, Mad Men, True Detective, Stranger Things, Man in the High Castle, they've all won this award at some point. Game of Thrones have won a couple. I love absolutely all of those main titles. I'm a big soundtrack music guy to start, but just the animations. I mean, I to this day will always, like Game of Thrones, awesome sequence of titles, and I will always love what they did with the Dexter theme and the dichotomy of starting your day and like straight up murdering people. So some of the nominees this year: Westworld is great, really cool animation style. Obviously the music's great. The better music is when they do the covers, but the intro theme song is also good, and the animation style is so crisp and clean as only HBO shows can deliver, especially the big budget ones. There has been a little subtle changes as the season have gone. I liked season 1 title sequence better, but I also liked season 1 of Westworld better. Maybe there's a correlation there. I'll let you guys decide. I will say I didn't actually remember what Watchmen's title sequence was, first and foremost. And looking back on it, it was these just really quick, subtle variants of the Watchmen word art in different ways coming up that always somehow related to the previous scene. And I always thought that was a nice touch, especially when I watched right before recording this, I watched a quick little montage of all of them. And I was like, wow, that is pretty, it's crisp, it's clean, it's cool. I will say, as you guys probably guessed from episode 1, little bit of a bias for no nomination for AHS 1984, which is the beautiful melding of the 80s time period and the 80s slasher genre. Obviously the music is that song slaps. Should be in there, but that's just me, and we know why I talk about AHS a lot, especially recently. All right, outstanding original music and lyrics. Doesn't matter what else is in this category. Last Week Tonight had the best song of the year. The musical number and choreography was the best thing ever, and the musical fan in me, there was dancing on the street, there was beautiful choreography, the singing was great, and it really came out of nowhere. And that show does amazing set pieces, but this was something particularly special, and it's always fun and a little informative when you watch his musical numbers as well. So I'd be blown away if Last Week Tonight did not win that category. So the comedy awards category, if I realize one thing about looking at this genre, I realize that I don't really watch things that would be considered in the comedy genre. I know the chances are low since it's such a hidden gem show, but man, it would be fun if the FX vampire mockumentary show could win an Emmy for outstanding comedy series against clear favorites like Amazon's Marvelous Miss Maisel, The Good Place, and of course, you will always appreciate Curb Your Enthusiasm and everything that comes from that show and the humors, because let's be real, it's pretty good. I can't talk enough about how I was going to say grounded. Grounded's not the right word. How muted, restrained, and hilarious What We Do in the Shadows is. It's the kind of comedy that It's a little weird and quirky, obviously. It's definitely not like a horror genre thing. It's just, it does play on some of those tropes a little bit. I mean, I'm sure everyone who watched the show will always think of the amazing cameo episode with all the famous vampires of old and the references to who they couldn't get, but having having Wesley Snipes in like over Skype when they were having their vampire meeting, so good. Shout out Blade. OG Blade. We'll talk about the history, the future of the Blade series, which looks very bright, but always had to give it to the OG as well for the good that he did in that role and that genre. I mean, What We Do in the Shadows is so good. Some of the guest cameos are Mark Hamill, Nick Kroll, both were in this season. And I love everything Matt Berry does. His between Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, the IT Crowd, Year the Rabbit. I'm sure there's more, but his just weird style of acting and over-the-topness that was on display in Garth Marenghi's Dark Place is clearly present in What We Do in the Shadows as well. So I am rooting hard for that understated gem against some of the big favorites that are in that genre. So let's move on to Outstanding Drama Series. I have to say there were some obviously great episodes of Better Call Saul. I just like Better Call Saul. Having Mike and Gus and Saul Goodman at the forefront of the Breaking Bad storyline is the best parts of Breaking Bad. And this may be a hot take, and this comes from someone who does have a Breaking Bad jacket that I'm looking at right now in my closet as I record this, but I kind of almost like Better Call Saul just a bit more than Breaking Bad. I will say, for any Breaking Bad fans who still have not gotten fully on board yet, you are doing yourself a disservice not watching this other Vince Gilligan property in Better Call Saul, and it really does, in my mind, have all the best elements of that classic 5-season AMC show. It's just a more fun world, I'll say, where they go with who they're focusing on. I honestly forgot specifics on Stranger Things Season 3. It was so long ago. It did not have Sean Astin anymore. Sam, my Sam! And Season 3 was actually, looking back on it, a really fun season with a really fun 80s setting. Keen Nick Nack Goes to the Movies fans will probably realize I'm a sucker for this time period and just oldies in general. I mean, think how cool Wonder Woman 1984 will be. I cannot think about how much fun the mall settings were, and there was more coming of age stories were there for the whole cast. The amazing musical number with Dustin and his, at the time, think he's lying for most seasons about having a girlfriend for Never Ending Story is beautifully shot and sang, and it comes where there's the opposite things going on with the monsters chasing him, and you hear this song of, make me leave, I'm everywhere, and never ending story. Oh, I don't remember all the words, but that. And obviously, the Robin, Steve, and Dustin friendship was great. Steve really has grown from a character you didn't think was going to be a mainstay of the show to being one of the most likable and fun characters on the show, and giving him a group of people to grow with, and a very well-developed Robin character was great. And let's be real, that's the couple's Halloween costume for at least a little bit. I don't know if it's too early to start thinking about Halloween costumes, especially where we are in the climate of things right now, but I'm sure that you could milk one more year out of the Robin and Steve couple's costume of the sailor restaurant outfits. And there's something a little fun about the David Hopper friendship with Alexi, and that spoiler alert for Stranger Things, because it is, unlike some of my AHS spoilers, actually not too far off from when it aired. So spoiler alert, when Alexi does get shot at the carnival, you've really grown attached to him, and that's true pain right there. Tears flowing after that death. But there's got to be some kind of, I don't know if they never could have planned it, but David Harper playing a character named Alexi in the upcoming Black Widow movie. Just a fun little tie. Wow, am I super behind on Handmaid's Tale. And after watching Elizabeth Moss in Us and the trying to bring plausibility to Invisible Man reboot, I need more of her in this meshed up genre that she finds herself in post Mad Men. Maybe too early to call, but she may be on tap to be in the Scream Queen staple of actresses as things go on if she keeps in this trajectory for her career. And she's quite good in this genre, so yeah, I gotta watch more Handmaid's Tale. I am very behind on that show. But Mandalorian, that's probably all you need to say. That or Baby Yoda. As I said, this show was the whole reason I, along with many other people, probably felt the need to purchase Disney Plus. Well, for me, that and rewatching Coco endlessly. I mean, it was the best live-action Star Wars we could have hoped for. Seeing that budget on a TV show, and it could have gone so wrong in so many ways, but it went so right. And season 2, they're really pulling in all the stops with so many, it's jam-packed with characters coming back, and a live-action Ahsoka potentially portrayed by Rosario Dawson, to eventually seeing something a little more for Giancarlo Esposito, we imagine. Something with seeing a live-action version of Rex, which fans have wondered if potentially the one old man with a beard in Jedi could have already been Captain Rex, but that clearly was not the knowledge at the time. And for me, very exciting seeing something with a Boba Fett. I don't know if it'll be the real one or someone wearing his armor. There's been rumors, but I'm hoping they go with the storyline of some variant of the books where he does make it out of the Sarlacc and does things. Obviously, that storyline did have Han Solo in it, and that is probably not super plausible, but you never know. We'll see. I would be blown away, and there's no word on this, so this is a pure fantasy of Harrison Ford being in The Mandalorian. It would be wild, but there's no world where that's happening. But as it had such a budget, like the movies, great growth of a character that's portrayed by 3 people to make our lead possible. Obviously, I'll speak specifically to the Pedro Pascal part from Game of Thrones, and obviously is the person who does, is the voice of Mando. And there was just the world building that really shaped a time period that we didn't see post Empire breakdown, but pre First Order build up. And there was just so much fan service with things like seeing a AT-AT and just these little moments that you're kind of like, oh, it's Star Wars, and you were kind of reminded of being a kid or an adult or whatever. Star Wars is a beautiful property for all ages, obviously. So I can't talk too much, actually, on the individual lead actor awards. But I do have to say, even though I know I wasn't the biggest fan of Westworld Season 3, Thandie Newton had a great season on Westworld for Season 3. I mean, she is quite good in general, but she had to be one of the brighter spots through her whole arc and her acting of that season. And I know his Breaking Bad run ended in 2011. He picked back up in 2017, and Giancarlo Esposito is still as captivating as ever, portraying Los Pollos Hermanos owner Gus Fring. He's also up for Best Guest Actor in Mandalorian, as we talked about already. And even if he does not get the final award there, I can't wait to see what they do with him in the next season. Also, do you guys remember... I'm not sure everyone watched Once Upon a Time, especially the whole thing. I did. Last season, not my favorite. They took quite a turn. But do you guys remember when they used to have just guest actors all over the place, and like some surprisingly well-known ones? Well, if people don't remember, he was in Once Upon a Time for 14 episodes over 7 years. I mean, there's so many fun guest actors that we'll have to talk about that show at a later time. But I will just say, between Sebastian Stan, obviously known as the Winter Soldier, and seeing and Jamie Dornan from 50 Shades of Grey fame are both in that show. So just a little teaser for something that we may have to discuss in depth at a later time. So let's move on to category that has gotten significantly more competition since Watchmen declared itself to be a limited series instead of in the drama category. Not the last time you're going to hear me talking about Watchmen. Was amazing on so many different levels. Because it was classified as a limited series, it should clean out this category. The drama nominees should consider themselves super lucky that they don't also have to compete against Watchmen, because I think they would be some serious competition for sure. But this, like the movie before it, was more than just superheroes duking it out and questioning about who has a mom named Martha. The opening sequence, I can't be the only person. It opened my eyes. I'm sure a fair amount of people's eyes are opened by seeing this historical event portrayed over visual media in the 1921 Tulsa race riots. And, after this opening scene, I had to look into this since I had never heard of it. You weren't sure if, at least I wasn't, if this was one of those historical fiction world building parts, that Watchmen's known for, like a giant blue man winning the Vietnam War in the 70s. I can't speak on how powerful this scene was and how it really, you don't expect a superhero show to educate you on history and be so timely and relevant. If it goes to show, how amazing is it that a comic book property can affect real world change. This event is now going to be incorporated into the Oklahoma school curriculum. Wow, how beautiful and amazing is that? But we got pretty serious there for a little bit, and I'm sure we could talk more about it, but I'm gonna move on from there. Tangent over. Let's go to talking about just how amazing. We keep talking about how amazing Watchmen is, but it's, at the end of the day, this is a show that it really will clean up this award season with how well it's made, how timely and relevant it became, and it is just, even without anything extra, it is just a very, very well done show, and I really wish they were doing more, but sometimes you quit when you're ahead, and this will always linger and last as one of those great one-off miniseries that HBO has been a part of. But let's look at television movies. It's tough to go up against Breaking Bad and Vince Gilligan in any category, but the outstanding television movie category, good luck, y'all. This is there's so much passion behind this, and with kind of continuing the story that we all wanted to see with Jesse Pinkman. I won't spoil. I'll leave the movie up to other people to watch at their own and not say anything, but the continuation of the Jesse Pinkman story is wanted, needed, and very much appreciated with the execution that was given to that. So lead actor and actress categories in limited series is surprisingly in depth and talent filled, especially with, we'll look at the actor side first. Just three off the bat: Hugh Jackman, Jeremy Irons, Mark Ruffalo. Jeremy Irons was definitely good and fun in Watchmen. He was very much, in my mind, not a part of the A story. I think that falls to Regina King. This makes me feel like this is one award Watchmen maybe won't win. Not that award shows try to balance things out too much, but seeing the whole, let's not give every single award to Watchmen, I feel like there's enough other mainstay actors in this category that they may not give this one to Jeremy Irons. I will say on the other side, however, if actress in limited series, you have to give it to Regina King. And same thing, there's a lot of talent in this group of actresses, but she should win this award hands down. Her portrayal as Sister Night, so good. She really, not that this show needed to have an actress carry it, but she really was so good and vulnerable and strong, and she was captivating to watch in this role, and all success and merit should be directed towards her for what she did for the show and how good the show was because of what she did for it. Supporting actor, 3/6 of the actors are from Watchmen, so good luck everyone else. Let's take a tangent here to a new category. We're going to talk some variety program. So, variety talk series. Yeah, sorry, suckers. Last Week Tonight is in this category, and it should be considered the staple of late night talk show TV still. It's a bit unfair to compare them to the daily variety of the shows, and it should be noted that they do only put out one episode a week, where a lot of these other shows are doing weekday daily shows. So, there is a difference there, but John Oliver, in my mind, is in the same vein of, in his prime, Jon Stewart from early 2000s. He's so good at what he does, and he's so aware of his brand and who he is, and the self-defeating talk and the wildly informative content that, yes, it may not be everyone's cup of tea, but I feel like you learn so much, and it's not in a way that will bore you. I mean, you're learning great things in a fun environment that he narrates, and what a gift for HBO to have John Oliver and what he brings, and the direction they went with his variety show. Yeah, good luck to to everyone else. I will say one little tidbit. Obviously, there's the category that talks on all the famous big time live show events. The halftime show for the Super Bowl this year was one of the most fun it's been in ages. This is a little tangent, but since the Bruno Mars era of shows, Jennifer Lopez and Shakira absolutely crushed this. The whole time I was waiting for my Waka Waka, and I got my Waka Waka right at the end, and it was just, Super Bowl halftime show should be fun. It was so much fun. I would love for them to win an award. So, going on to probably the most important reason why all you folk look to the Emmy nominations, or you just look online and say snubs. Well, some of mine may be ones that everyone says, some of them may be personal ones, but snubs are always going to be the most talked about portion of the Emmy nomination social media day. So, no love for Ray Seahorn or Bob Odenkirk individually, after both having super strong acting seasons on Better Call Saul this year, with a lot of interpersonal drama, relationships, and it was just they really had to put on the full variety, and obviously I think one of the charms of this show is seeing their relationship develop as the legality of their profession. It's more so, Bob Odenkirk's character of Saul Goodman, seeing his transformation into Saul Goodman, and it's just so well acted. And let's be real, they've been great every season. I know Bob Odenkirk does obviously get award show recognition here and there, but I think they both could have easily gotten a recognition after the work they did this season. No Aaron Paul actor nominations has to be a little surprising, for Watchmen. I thought he was, like Thaddeus Newton, one of the better parts of a more confusing season 3, or anything from El Camino, which is mind-blowing. Now, both those shows did get Emmy nods, the show and the movie, but he did not get any acting nods in either, which was a little surprising, since, once again, he was quite good in both of them. I mean, if we could give Marshawn Lynch an award for his brief stint in Westworld, I would be all for that. Beast Mode is a gift to the NFL, and his time at the Bills will always be a cherished memory of me growing up a Bills fan, which is not an easy fandom to grow up in. Brief sports montage reference over. Back to entertainment. Back to movies and TV shows. So I would say Amazon shows got no love this year if they were action revenge stories. 2 Amazon shows that I started and finished in the early stages of quarantine, Hunters or The Boys, both tales of revenge. One is about going after Nazis in America post World War II. One is about the superheroes being a commercialized entity and in the real world and all grounded and realistic, but the fact that maybe they're not as squeaky clean as we perceive them to be, and seeing the story from their perspective and from a perspective of people who've been wronged by them. And both of these are phenomenal shows. Hunters was super good. I was recommended that by a fellow UMass employee. Recently, they were announced for season 2. It took a nice chunk of time to see the announcement, but that happened not too long ago. Look, Al Pacino will always be a stalwart actor, and I don't think anyone could question that. And he was such a huge part of the success in that show with his characterization and a twist that I will not tell you, because I absolutely cannot ruin that for anyone with how good it is. But I will say he rightly deserves some merit and credit for the work that he put into that show. I will say The Boys did receive one Emmy nod for Outstanding Sound Editing for a comedy or drama series for the 1 hour format, but come on! They deserve way more. But I really thought they had a really strong, great, just fun first season of the show. And cinematography and obviously the special effects were super well done. And I mean, hopefully season 2 can garner more critical praise. I feel like sometimes when it's a really crowded season and category, they kind of, not everyone's paying attention to the first season. And I think you kind of have the sophomore year glow up a little bit, where you may see more excitement and people paying more attention, and you see more award recognition after that. I can't speak enough on how much, look, I love superhero shows and movies, and am I biased? 110%. I am so biased that you could subtract 10% and I'd still be at 100% if you took that out. The show finds a way to ground and in my mind, innovate a genre that I love, but it's tough to do something new, I think. And they have a great source material that they've really turned into something super exciting and fun on Amazon. And I will say there has to be some excitement because Shawn Ashmore, Iceman from X-Men, was cast as Lamplighter for season 2. And for the Boys fans who have watched the show, he is a character who initially is replaced by Starlight to join the Seven. So seeing him come back, it'll be curious to see the dynamic, because he really wasn't advertised in any of the trailers. They've been advertising the new character Stormfront a lot. So I'll be curious what his role will be, and I do think he's quite a good actor, especially from not just his X-Men time, but his time on The Following was quite good as well with Kevin Bacon and James Purfoy. So this last point, not really an Emmy point, but I think, I don't know if people, this may fall on deaf ear, but I am, as you may know or may not, I may not have talked about a whole lot, a grown fan of the zombie genre, specifically Walking Dead, which there is a memory tied to it, so it may be overshadowed, but Walking Dead is kind of my feel-good show. Some people watch Friends. I do not. I watch things that are dark and depressing because it makes me feel better about the world and my life. I think that's my psychological reason why I'm a fan of The Walking Dead. But anyway, Walking Dead, big fan of it. I know it has not been as strong as earlier seasons have been. Some people dropped off after season 2. Some people dropped off after the strange end of season 3 to season 4, where it felt like it was extending it to keep the governor's character in the show a bit longer, to the pretty, I would imagine, universally hated cliffhanger of who Negan killed with a bat, which is sad, because that's kind of the point I want to get at is talking about Jeffrey Dean Morgan's portrayal of Negan and how great it is, and how it feels like, I don't know if he'll ever be able to get any Emmy recognition for his portrayal of Negan in The Walking Dead. I know that I'm not in the mainstay majority here for still feverishly supporting The Walking Dead, and they have not had a nomination since 2017 for the Primetime Emmys. they haven't even had a win since 2012. And they've never had any actor nominations. It's all been for special effects, which obviously they're quite well known for. And Negan and Jeffrey Dean Morgan's portrayal of him has been such a warm spot to the show that as the seasons have gone, have lost a portion of the original cast. At this point, we really only have Norman Reedus' Daryl Dixon, Melissa McBride's Carol, and wow, that might be it. I mean, obviously, there's some questions of what they'll do with Andrew Lincoln and Denai Guerrera, Rick and Michonne, as they make their transition to the Walking Dead movies. And there is season 2's Lauren Cohen is coming back as Maggie, who was on a bit of a hiatus for the last season and a half or so. And the Jeffrey Dean Morgan portrayal of Negan was such a bright spot, and he's so fun and charismatic, and he really eats that role up. And gosh, I just wish at least like a nod, an Emmy, something. And I feel like since his big bad days are kind of over now that we're on to the end of the Whisperers arc, well, almost, and since it has not finished yet, we will have to wait all the way to October 4th at 9 p.m. is when we will finally get to see the Walking Dead Season 10 finale, which I'm very excited to see. There was a little bit of a cliffhanger, and there's rumors that you may actually lose quite a few characters in the end of this very long episode. I know there was a tease of that way back in Season 3 where they got rid of a bunch of barely developed characters in the Governor's Army, but I think there's an assumption that this may be quite a chunk more of that. Maybe we'll have to do another episode with some predictions later. Maybe we could do a nice fun odds game of who we think is not going to make it past the Season 10 finale of name brand Walking Dead characters. But yeah, I think it's crazy that, in my mind, that it feels like Jeffrey Dean Morgan is fighting an uphill battle to get any sort of nomination for his portrayal of Negan. And I think that stinks, but, at least he gets some love at the Saturn Awards. There is a silver lining to everything. All right, guys, that is it. We took a lot of fun tangents and divergence. We had a good time. We learned some things. We really got to know each other a little bit better. And that is episode 2 in the books. So you guys should absolutely keep up with the weekly Friday shows that we're putting out. We have our lovely podcast host in Buzzsprout, but I want to just kind of let you guys know that you can follow along with us on a numerous amount of social media channels, either at @knickknack_IC or Knickknack Goes to the Movies. We'll be having some engaging Instagram, Twitter, Facebook content, maybe branch out into YouTube eventually. The OG place of Knickknack Goes to the Movies 5 years ago was when we picked up there, stopped for a bit, and now we're back in podcast form. All new episodes will be coming out every Friday, so make sure to keep up to what we're doing and rank us, review us, give us some love, and reach out to us on social media, and we're going to keep trying to give you that full-on entertainment content that you guys are absolutely craving. Have a good one. Peace.
Are you not entertained?
I think this is going to be the beginning of a beautiful friendship. I don't like goodbyes. Let's just call this see you later, alligator.